Someone in the chat's asking about the Thunderbolt to PCIe. Oh. No, we haven't had anybody tell us about putting an Excelsior in a PCIe Thunderbolt enclosure. Maybe that's the reason they're making it. Because that was a PCIe enclosure. Remember that thing? The little external enclosure thing? And Josh is departed in flames.
Not quite good enough for graphics, but yeah, you could do some decent storage off of that. And if they brand it Apple, they'll just be making money hand over fist.
Oh, yeah. It did decent. I thought it could have done better. When you put a RAID chip, any kind of, I don't know, it's really tricky trying to get a regular RAID, like a RAID HBA style card to work nicely with solid state drives. And part of the problem comes in when SSDs, their big advantage is with the whole native command queuing, the ability to pass the queued commands onto the solid state that's behind the RAID chip. So a lot of the RAID controllers, from not too long ago, were designed just around hard drives. So they were happy to get the cached performance. They were happy if that reached the performance level of what ended up working out to just one good SSD. So that was kind of, not that great when you started connecting a whole bunch of SSDs to them, because then you ended up capping yourself out of just the performance of one of them. You get the added throughput of multiple of them connected, but then, the IOs per second would just sort of top out at the best you can get with just one.
Well, it's an unfortunate problem you have with a lot of SSDs. You saturate the bandwidth on one bloody drive.
Burke's messing with me big time.
Burke's playing.
He's looking at a pole. It's
like a barber's pole.
There's a barber pole. Yes. That's a nice barber pole you got there, Burke. That's... Oh. He broke it. What are you doing?
He's wiping.
He's wax on, wax off.
He's sneaking up behind himself.
Paint the fence.
Look behind you, Burke. Look behind you.
Quick, cue the psycho music. SWAT. Burke has a SWAT shirt.
I always thought that was kind of like, wearing a kick me sign on your back.
Any questions from the chat?
Well, actually, it says it's a Sarah Robotics SWAT shirt.
Oh. All right, I won't SWAT you then.
That's good.
Do we have any storage questiones? Or news guy questiones for the Jeremy? Or tired guy questiones for the Burke? Lonely, owner of a lonely twit cottage.
You got blinds over the windows there, Burke? It looks awful dark.
Samsung 830, buy or don't buy? Yes.
Well, it's dark. It is dark here.
Definitely buy Samsung 830.
You're kidding, right? Where do you live?
Vancouver. It's only 20 after 8.
Let's see. Well, what kind of SSDs do I need to avoid? Diablo 2 sign-in errors? I would be surprised if that was the SSD's fault.
Of course it was.
Intel RST, does it have to be SLC drives?
Yes,
no.
Nope.
The limit for the caching is 60 gig. Anything higher than 60 gig, and you're sort of wasting it. Let's see. Agility 3 series, 120. Oh. Agility 3 120 gig for $115. Yeah, that's a deal.
Hey, that breaks $1 a gigabyte.
That breaks $1 a gig. I would do that. However, I would make sure you update to the most recent firmware before you do anything with that drive, because that's the 6 gigabit SandForce, which has had some kind of buggy stuff. So if you get old stock that's not the most recent firmware, you're asking for it to just brick at random. And no, I'm
Well, the
not
one I
kidding.
picked up way back in February already had the new firmware on it, so I don't think you're going to see.
I'm just saying, just be
Yeah,
careful. Just
check.
go check it anyway. Because you don't want to, you don't want to be on the wrong end of that. I know this because I had an Agility 3 just randomly brick on me, and I was barely even using the thing after I did ran the benches on it.
Good thing you could sell it on
SSD,
eBay, eh?
uh, no. SSD defrag is not needed. Don't do it, please. That's bad for it. Uh, hmm. Let's see. Mushkin Enhanced Chronos Deluxe 240. What chip is in the Chronos? Is that Sandforce also? I think that's the Sandforce with the synchronous flash. I think. Okay, so for Mushkin, the only thing that makes me shy away from them is you're not likely to get the firmwares as fast because Mushkin is not as big of a player. And for something, if that Google around on that Chronos Deluxe thing and see if, I haven't reviewed one, but if it's Sandforce, you have to make sure that the most recent firmware is available. Mushkin might not be the best way to go if they don't have that available. Oh, what else we got here? Reason why an
Did you end up?
SSD RAID 0. What? Did I do
I
what?
was going to say, did you read that HyperCloud press release?
5 times, and I could not figure it out.
I have no idea what they're trying to tell me.
Some company was trying to make some RAM-based caching of something that was 32 gig. I don't know. That didn't make any sense to me.
Well, no, but the crazy thing is that they got HP to buy it. The ProLiant Gen 8 servers are going to be using this HyperCloud memory technology.
Oh, Chumley in the chat said that Deluxe is the same as the Vertex 3. So yes,
Oh, there you go.
Absolutely sure the Mushkin has it. That's the same chip. That's the same Sandforce that had that bug. So, here's a combo. Joel asked what SSDs help me play Minecraft, and then the Gamer34 asked, for your average person, does it matter what SSD you get versus having a hard drive? And well, it's a huge jump.
Yeah.
What
It really matters.
Can't play
It's-
Minecraft.
And well,
Well, if you're going to play
Minecraft-
Minecraft, you have to build the SSD.
so
Right.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
You
Out
have
of
to-
pixels.
You have to do this
Blocks.
with the flash memory.
Well, you have to.
and
You
then
have to make it out of.
Well, some
stone
sand,
and,
some rock.
but yeah, you have to invite the. You have to. Well, you would make it out of silica.
So where an
take a while.
SSD does the best, an SSD does the best with anything that accesses a bunch of small files, or things that or if you're sort of a power user and you have your computer doing a whole bunch of stuff in the background all the time, where you have like some big file manipulation, something going on, and then you try to do something else on top of that, and if you find yourself in those situations where you just like sort of tapping your finger, waiting, what the heck's the computer doing, and you hear the hard drive just thrashing away. That's the kind of stuff that an SSD just makes happen instantly. All those periods where you normally would have been waiting just doesn't happen anymore.
It's like a monitor upgrade. It's one of those upgrades that you are going to notice immediately. You don't question, gee, I wonder if this was kind of worth it. It's like, oh, hey, that only takes that long now? Awesome.
And
all of a sudden you disable stuff in your BIOS just to get it to see if you can boot under 30 seconds.
I did something just recently that amplified that so badly. Because here's what usually happens. Someone gets a new SSD and they're not worried about, they don't want to have to mess up with alignment and all this other, whatever. So they usually use that installation as an excuse to do their reinstall, right? And when you do a reinstall, you freshen a lot of things in Windows. The other day, I had a Windows 7 install that was like a very old one. I've moved twice since I did this install on my main rig. And it was still really snappy because it was run on SSDs. And just for giggles, I cloned it over to a 1 terabyte Velociraptor just to see. I wasn't
one of the new ones?
Yeah, brand new one.
Okay.
I wasn't at a usable, responsive desktop for 2.5 minutes with just, years worth of just all that crap that just sort of builds up on Windows and installs and uninstalls and registry doing weirdness and all that stuff that the system was able to just bulldoze through when it was running on solid state. That wasn't even noticeable, all those things. But when you put it on the hard drive, it was just painful. It was really, really painful. So yeah, take that as sort of a temperature of that. Because I mean, even if you're using a hard drive, if you do a clean Windows install, it's still going to be pretty snappy. It doesn't start slowing down until you start piling those extra things for the system to do and things that the hard drive has to access constantly. What else we got? Is there any Windows RAM drivers that are any good?
Yeah, I haven't played with one in a while.
There's a couple of them that are out there. I've never messed with them. I know that the next test bed that I build, I'm going to try to get like 32 gig of RAM in there so we can do some RAM drive stuff.
With the RAM that Sandy Bridge and Ivy Bridge will take, it's becoming very, very attractive.
Yeah. I mean, if you can get enough RAM in there. Let's see here. Without SATA overhead. Excelsior.
Yeah, we were wondering that earlier.
I don't think so, because just looking at the benches that the SSD review ran on, the sample they had theirs directly connected to PCI Express on like it was like a Z79 board or whatever. It was a good board. And they weren't seeing such high IOs per second that it would bottleneck like any kind of overhead thing. The bottleneck in that card is the RAID. Really.
Yeah.
The RAID, once you get in those really small transfers where you can pile a whole bunch on, the RAID becomes the bottleneck more than the throughput.
Well, and also we sort of decided that for the same reason that you can't really use that for an external GPU. It's fast, but you just don't have that kind of bandwidth. The latency is going to kill you.
Yep. Let's see here. There are 4 terabyte hard drives from Western Digital.
Really?
Oh, Keith said, where are 4 terabyte hard drives? Okay.
I think they just have 3s.
I don't know where they are. I would really like them to make them. I will say this, though. Western Digital tends to kick back a little bit on something where the market is not, like, really, where the demand is not that high. They really don't step into a capacity point until, it's more of a mainstream kind of thing, which I think is sort of smarter on their point, on their part. I know Hitachi's making a 4 terabyte. And I think Seagate is making a 4 terabyte, though it's not very popular and it's really hard to find on sale. And by sale, I mean just buy, period. At what point will be upgrading one SSD, like a Vertex 3, to another future one?
One set of 12 comes out?
It's even then, why?
Yeah, then, fair enough.
Okay, so I have boxes full of solid-state drives here. I have PCI Express solid-state drives stacked up on shelves. I have an I/O drive. I have all I've got all this stuff here, right? My computer that I'm talking on Skype on right now is running on a SATA 3 gigabit solid-state drive, not 6 gigabit.
No, mine's a 6 gigabit, but it's on a 3 gigabit connection.
See? So same difference.
Yeah.
Right? It's still damn fast. For the kind of stuff you're a typical person's, for desktop use. Sure. It's really fast. I hate to say it, but to some extent, the SATA 6 gigabit thing is almost megapixel race-ish to me. Yes, it is.
Unless you're in a server environment. You're not going to notice much of a difference.
Yeah,
it's nice to have, but
there's really not. You are literally 90 to 95% of the way there just by going with a decent SATA 3 gigabit SSD. You're only going to shave another second or two off of whatever that minute-long thing is that's using the drive. The only exception would be something that's just purely just bandwidth, like pure sequential. You just need to move huge files around. But how often are you doing that, really? It's... say you have a huge file that you're going to unrar to your same hard drive. Chances are your CPU cannot pass it through at SATA 6 gigabit speed. It just can't, it can't manipulate the bits fast enough. You're doing a game install. Well, where are you going to get the stuff from that's going to come into your system at faster than 3 gigabits per second? It's obviously not going to come in over your gigabit Ethernet at faster than 3 gigabits per second. So, it's just there's really no way to put the stuff on the drive that fast. So really, you do hit a point of diminishing returns. I do love the
Unless
fact
you have a
that
really, really, really big family and they all want to move stuff at the same time. Sorry, you're not going to see it. It's like,
And you all
buying
share the
a
same
super
computer
high-end
and
video
the same
card
everything.
and remaining on a 720p monitor, on a single 720p monitor. Yeah, you can push it really quick, but sorry.
you can't notice because it's
you'll never even notice.
Yeah, your screen doesn't go faster than the 60 frames a second anyway. So this is literally you even with a lower end SSD, you quickly run into your CPU becomes the bottleneck. It literally just shifts it right back to it.
Even if you are running a dual Xeon.
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter. It's there's plenty of things that are single threaded limited that are not a multi-threaded type of a function that you're still bottlenecked by one core of your CPU. It's only going to go so fast. Yeah, really. And really just just getting that random access out of the picture, getting that latency, that hard drive record player style latency out of the way. Once that's out of the way, there are, if you go back, actually, if you look at like the Samsung 830 review that I did, I included the old school Samsung, not the 470, but the one even before that. It might have been the 470. Basically, it was an SSD that did not scale up at all IOs per second. Like the more how the IOs per second charts that we do usually have like this, it's like an up ramp usually for your typical SSD. The more heads up you give it, the more commands you pile on it, the faster it goes. The 470 didn't do that at all. It was just like a flat line. And it was a flat line towards the bottom of the chart. But it still was plenty usable as an SSD. You put it in, you run your OS on it, things will still run within, 90, 80, 90% of the speed as those other ones that have those crazy ramp, and do crazy IOs per second when you pile the stuff on. The reason? Well, most of the time, if it's a fast SSD anyway, it's sitting towards the bottom of that chart anyway. It doesn't get a chance to ramp up because it's so quick, it never gets a queue stacked up on it in the first place.
Yeah, once you're up to about 128 queue depth, 256 queue depth, all of a sudden it shines. But what are you doing on your machine that needs that many things going?
Well, actually, for a single SSD, most of them are not capable of handling more than 32 on the queue depth. They don't report as doing. It's not really an ouch. That's like halfway across that chart, which is usually where most of those drives have already hit. Whatever they're going to.
But they flatten out and they stay pretty flat.
Yeah. Yeah, but most of the time, the reason they're flattening out they're actually hitting throughput limit. Like you've saturated whatever that serial ATA is. Yeah. So, but your system, the average home user, whatever, they're not going to hit QDEP 32. It's almost impossible for them to do it. The only reason I can do it is because I run a crazy benchmark app that spawns 32 threads and throws them all at the drive at the same time. Like I have to do.
Or if you really like
purpose.
spam and you've let your computer get really, really infected, throw an SSD and they'll love it.
Oh, someone asked if there's any way to trim on Windows XP. Install Windows 7.
Yeah. Quickest, easiest way. Or buy a SandForce.
There are some, honestly, there are some kludgy kind of ways around that. It's not worth it. And not only that, but if you're running an SSD under XP, make damn sure that you're aligned properly. That will actually do worse to an SSD performance-wise than not trimming it ever will.
You don't worry about queue depth, but all of a sudden you're obsessed about cluster size.
What's this BIOS one? You see that one? 60 seconds to boot, but if he goes to the BIOS and exits, it takes 12? You have a RAID controller that's taking like...
BIOS or UEFI?
Yeah, that's
because it could be loading in the background. Like
Yeah,
if you make
Harry.
a change and actually have to do a full reboot, I bet you it takes the same amount of time. But if you go into the BIOS and then jump out,
It's BIOS. It's old school.
okay, BIOS.
I would think if you have any RAID controllers that are just taking a while to
Yep.
initialize. Well, here's the better question. When you try to go into your BIOS, does it take you like 40 seconds to get there?
Good point.
No, I mean, legitimate question, right? It might still be doing all those initialization
Yeah.
things, and it, you know, um,
No, gone are the days where you hit delete F1 or F10 to get straight into your BIOS. No, it's still got to load a few extra drivers and
right,
then
right, yeah,
dump you in.
it's still gonna do all the, option ROM, whatever for RAID controllers, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And
Apparently
Oh.
4 seconds into BIOS.
Windows 3.1 with an SSD. That's cute.
Well, that'll be a fun project for you. Enjoy that.
I did a Windows 95 install the other day in a virtual machine that was running on
Why?
a solid state. Why?
Why would you
To
do
see how
something
You
fast
you
it
suddenly
would go.
needed
That's
16-bit
horrible of you.
compatibility or something?
Oh,
borderline
it's funny that
evil,
little
dude.
bar thing that goes across the bottom. It actually had a thing that went across the bottom, and
Windows
like-
95.
yeah, 95. OSR2
Why not just do it? Why not just do XP in a virtual machine? Like
because it took longer to install. XP gives you that XP
come
gives
on.
you that funny estimated time remaining that
Install-
regardless
why don't
of
you-
how fast your
can't
computer
you
is,
just-
it
why don't you-
always starts at like 43 minutes.
why don't you just like use Ghost and like install an image into the virtual machine and then it's like instantaneous.
No, you have to get. How do you get the image without
Rabble,
first doing the
rabble.
install? Silly.
Well, this is why I want to know
do
why
that
you
ahead
had
of
a
time.
Windows 95 disk handy.
Okay, so the reason I did that was because I was doing all sorts of old
Wait,
school
dude,
and newer
Windows
school installs
95,
to
like,
various
what
virtual
is it,
machines.
That's on floppy disks.
Well, I was doing this for malware analysis stuff.
8 or 12 of them or so.
I was playing.
If you're still
with-
running Windows 95, you deserve malware.
I was playing with malware that
agree.
was Windows 95 malware
Frankly, you've got malware
For
if that's
fun.
your OS.
for fun and profit.
Alan, you're promoting malware.
Not promoting. My other job is to do the opposite of promote malware.
Well, your other job hopefully does not involve anybody using Windows 95.
No.
That would be bad.
Still using XP.
I'm sure
though.
there's still some.
Unfortunately.
XP is so much better than 95.
That's true.
Many.
Remember how many people were whining when XP came out? They're like, "I'm gonna keep using my 98."
Well, they're whining.
What do you
because
mean
they're
new
like,
file
"I want empty
system?"
server.
I'm
They
gonna
weren't
keep
whining
using my.
if they were on ME, Windows ME. That's for sure.
Oh God.
Well, you're allowed to complain about that one.
I'm glad that I skipped ME. I'm also glad that I skipped Vista.
I had it for about 2 months.
It just was not tolerable.
It's not good.
Speed bump.
It's like kind of sort of quasi protected mode. Like
Well,
what
no,
sort
remember
of
it was hell the multimedia features.
Hmm.
Exactly.
Exciting new ways to experience your computer from the new Microsoft operating system.
I was in on the
Media
beta.
Edition, I think that was what it meant. Was
When ME came out, I was in on the beta, and everybody was like, "Oh, so this is still really rough around the edges, sort of beta territory." And then,
sucks.
like 2 weeks later, Microsoft released it.
Here you go. Manufacturers have fun.
It's coming out, boys. We're just gonna go with what we got. It's, what? It's not done. There's like I just submitted 25 bug reports.
But, preemie babies, they're supposed to stay in like a safe place for a little while. You're not
Put
supposed
this
to just
back in
push
the
them out
oven.
into the world.
It's not done yet.
You gotta let them grow.
What about 8? Who asked about Windows 8? What about 8?
Yeah, if
I'm
you got
not
a touch
sure.
screen, it'll be fun.
I'm on the fence about skipping 8. If I use 8, I will definitely use it with the Stardock. What was the name of that thing? It basically took the Metro and shrunk it down into a start menu looking thing.
Yeah.
Stardock made a little tool that just like
Yeah, and it got killed, and they brought it back, and I haven't actually checked on it in a while.
it got killed. I didn't know it got killed.
Yeah, the second preview release that they put out, Microsoft blocked it, but
They
then I
just had
think
to,
it
like,
came back.
work around. Well, if Microsoft has probably changed something. But yeah. Anybody that really, really complains big time about Metro being the detractor, I think is not the right way. It's not the right reason. Because there's going to
Well, I do, but it's because I don't own a cell phone.
Well, no, but not because I would want you to keep using Metro. God, no. Especially not
Oh, but
on
there's
like a
so many
30-inch,
people that would love to use it.
no. Especially not on a 30-inch screen. Who wants to hit the start button and have a 30-inch wall of stuff just like you completely interrupt your workflow? Anything you're trying to work on, just like poof, and then you just got those tiles and well, I've tiled my wall in front of
The
me.
start menu would be like, oh my god, like 4 inches of that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
and less functional than the start menu.
but the
it'd fly
but that
out.
Stardock tool, and then there's another tool as well out there that they both basically take the Metro. They rip the start menu graphic out of the right side of the Metro like graphic itself,
Oh, wait, he's talking
and
with
they
his
just
hands.
make only that part appear, and it just appears where the start menu used to be. So it basically, replaces the start menu with the new start menu. So it doesn't disrupt everything. Your desktop stays there. There's even a checkbox to force it to go straight into the desktop as soon as you log in, right? So in theory, you would never see Metro if you use that. So there's plenty of
But I've
solutions
run into
out
so
there
many
to get
people that
around
love
it.
Metro.
Yeah,
I
let 'em love
really
it.
have. They're all in their 20s or younger, but they're absolutely in love with it. And the constant question is, can I get a touch screen? Because if I had a touch screen, it'd be like a super phone. It'd just be so awesome. I'd love it because I can get apps and I can do this and I can do that. And I'm like, it's a
Yeah, but
computer.
not on my
They're called
not on my desktop.
program, and a desktop is supposed to be a
Like,
desktop.
there are programs available for your computer now.
Yeah. No, but I want the apps. I don't want the programs. I want the apps, man.
What I think
You're an
is
idiot.
I don't see Metro really
There are also
catching on that fast
applications.
because it's not cross compatible. It's a scripted thing more. It's not
Yep.
like a compiled thing, right? So
It's
you want to
gotta
make
be-
something
it's-
in
It's
this.
got to be like Microsoft's attempt to like Googleize the whole like operating system sort of environment, maybe. I don't know.
I guess, but where I see that going is people are still going to make their app, whatever it is, desktop capable. They're just going to make somebody's going to
Well,
find an
they
easy
should,
way.
because they're sure as hell going to be developing it on a full computer, and they're just going to
Right.
dumb it down just like they do for computer games. They
Well-
develop it on a PC and then they dumb it down to the whatever console they're
Yep.
going to do it on.
What I hope everybody does, though, in trying to make stuff that works with
It's a
Windows 8,
port.
I not even so much a port. I want
It's
to
an
say,
OS port.
I want to say, like, somebody will come up with some easy framework that is just an easy way to graft on a Metro front end to whatever, your regular Windows desktop compiled app is. And I can imagine them actually running the app on the desktop and then just having it port over whatever Metro-ish stuff you want to show up, have that show up on Metro. That I think would be the ideal marriage of that, because then, okay, so you want to use it in Metro, fine. Then you go to your desktop. Well, guess what? The
Microsoft
app's
is
still
supposed to be
running,
trying to
like
kill,
the full-blown version of it,
multi-window,
right?
like, environment.
Yeah, that would be like a smart way to go, so you can access it with Metro if you wanted to. Say it was like a notebook that was a convertible with a tablet screen, and you had it plugged into your monitor on your desk, and you were using the desktop, and then you want to travel now. You grab the thing, you unplug it. Now
Yeah,
you
monkey
can
stick,
access
we're
the
all
same
gonna have
stuff
to
through.
learn it because we all have to see other people's computers.
And to think one day I used to worry about terminate but stay in memory programs.
Yeah, and the whole like one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Metro's trying to go back to one thing at a time. It's like,
And it's not going to happen.
it's like, come
Sorry.
on, you're trying to they're trying too hard to make Metro like an iOS-ish,
Yep.
Android-ish. I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like that
I
part.
like it when
But
computers are get dumber and simple and less.
okay, so here's the thing. There's a lot
they're
of
trying
other
to keep
stuff.
up with the people, but they'll never be able to.
There's a lot of other
We're almost
stuff,
going
the other stuff
backwards.
under the hood. And I can say this because I've actually looked like at the DLL level of some of the stuff on Windows 8, like as compared to how APIs and stuff like that work under Windows 7, and they've made like a lot of changes. Like security enhancements, just the way the kernel does things differently. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that works much more efficiently and much more securely.
But
for
never
Windows 8.
quite to the level they were promising with, the search-based file system where we're going to completely revamp it from out of anything that we'd seen before.
Right?
I've been
You're
threatening
right
to do
there.
that since Vista. and they still haven't
well,
done it.
even before
Well,
Vista,
I
I think they
mean,
were
they
talking
could
about
just
that thing.
they could have actually been holding the promises and not just completely just put like contained, just carried over all the bloat and just they just
Yeah.
went overboard and just
That's
had
what they
everything
do.
out and then just
What I do like that they're doing though is the REFS is really going to be good. That's the resilient file system, which is
Yeah.
basically on top of NTFS. It
REFS does not need to be checked.
yeah, you run check disk on it, and it's basically like, what? There is no check disk for me. What are you kidding me? Homie, don't play that. Basically, is what it tells you. It's pretty funny to run it, but it's actually there's enough resiliency and redundancy built into the file system itself, and like Microsoft seems to be the only guys that can pull off properly. They made it 100% backwards compatible with anything that would normally access NTFS. Right? So everything works identically, except under the hood, there's a whole crap load of more, robust kind of stuff going on there. So you can't just have a couple of bits corrupt on a partition and all of a sudden you lost the whole thing. That's not really possible with REFS. There's just too many, it's too much redundancy built in. And then when you combine that with the storage spaces thing, then it gets really interesting looking because REFS does file level checksums. Not only file level, but it does them at like the block level. It does it in like I think 256 meg or something blocks, right? And if you're using that file system on a storage space, which conveniently has the same size blocks, storage spaces is basically like RAID, but it's like Drobo style RAID with blocks distributed amongst the drives. So for that, you don't have to have all the drives the same capacity. It doesn't care. All it cares about is, hey, I want this block to be in more than one place. Okay, copied to drive A and drive B, right? So now you have redundancy.
Yeah, well, that's why storage spaces is going to work.
Well, that's how it's going to work, right? But if you have REFS in conjunction with storage spaces and REFS sees that one piece of a file is corrupted and the checksum doesn't match anymore, it knows, basically coordinates with the storage space and goes, hey, I thought you had multiple copies of this. Let me see what you got. And it can basically and it does this all in the background. Like it would fix this behind the scenes, it would fix the corruption, and it would be back to normal. And the only thing that would have happened was it would have just made an entry in the system log. Like you wouldn't have even known. It just fixed it. So that's pretty cool stuff. The only thing I'm concerned about is the performance of storage spaces because I did some tests and it was horrendous. I'm hoping
I'd expect so.
It was worse than like I could have written this in like a basic variant and it would have went faster.
No, but I'm sure that they're going for resiliency and ease of use because they're looking at home user just randomly plugging stuff in and saying, I want more storage, I want more storage, I want more storage.
No, but I was testing it under the enterprise version. I was testing the server. Right?
Well, then again, I'm not going to trust enterprise data as storage spaces. Sorry.
I don't know. That's what they're going for. I think the only reason it was slow. Yeah, I know. I'm inclined to agree. I wouldn't mind putting REFS instead of NTFS on.
Oh no,
whatever.
I don't look forward to the upgrade, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm totally with you on the storage spaces thing.
But no, I'd rather have RAID 10 than storage spaces. Really.
True. Well, okay, so that gives you basically a whole backup. It's a live backup, right? But
and there's offsites as well. But and how well is storage spaces going to deal with offsite backups?
It should
like
be.
You're going to be able to.
It should be no.
I would think. But
whatever tool you're doing your offsite backup with, it still looks. Well, I've already messed with it, right? So it looks just like a regular volume. It looks no different than any other Windows volume you would have made. So in that respect, it's just it's like a Z drive.
But if the transfer speed is crap, that means you're never going to get a full snapshot, let alone be able to do changes. There's a lot of worries to it.
The transfer speed was very fast, except for when I did distributed parity and tried to write to it. That was horrible.
Okay, that's not so bad.
It was worse than. It was like a fraction of Windows 7 doing RAID 5.
Oh
which
boy.
is similar, which is a similar. It's doing the same math.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just seemed really, really slow. I don't know. I got to do more tests. It might have just
No,
been
I
they
can
didn't
see it for the
optimize it.
consumer. I don't know about enterprise.
Yeah. Who knows? I might use it at home because
Yeah. I'll play with
the,
it. It looks like fun to
the
play with.
well the thing I like is it will handle a cascade failure just fine,
Yeah.
just like a Drobo. That I like. You know, the instant one drive drops offline, as long as there's enough room left for it to redistribute all the bits and you know restore the redundancy, it just does it. It just immediately starts doing it, and it only moves what it has to move.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, and then when you do replace that drive, the rebuild is like almost instant because now it's like, well, all my blocks are already sort of spread out already. It might just put a couple of them back on there, but um, you know, it's real easy. Drobo's the same way.
Mm.
Drobos are pretty good about that. But either one of those solutions is horrible for data recovery. Like you better hope that the file system kept working and you can read your stuff off.
Yeah, you thought a RAID was bad. Wait until you're spread across 10 drives that are pretending to be one drive.
Yeah, and there's metadata involved and there's proprietary. You know, you're not getting that back. You're getting pieces of it back.
And it'll be in the cloud.
Added bonus feature, secure erase.
Well, okay,
Just destroy them.
Burke's got a point. So if you're backing up to the cloud from there, then you know that's it. It's almost to the point where you don't care how obfuscated this stuff gets anymore.
Yeah.
Like the methods, as long as you have that other backup, you know, you have another copy somewhere else. Have I ever managed to break a Drobo? No.
You're still trying, aren't you?
I have 2 Drobos within 3 feet of me. I have done God knows what to these things. They don't, short of throwing it off my roof, I don't see how I have not seen one lose data yet. I have, in all my combings of the internet, somebody like griped, you know, there was like a consumer report feedback, whatever thing, and somebody said that they had one fail on them. I'm thinking it was really a hardware failure. You know, I'm thinking there's some defective thing with the Drobo. I'm thinking that their firmware is reliable enough, well thought out enough, that you pretty much, I mean, yeah, it's hard to make one of these things corrupt anything. The closest
I spilled a 72-ounce big gulp on it too. Do you think that had anything to do with it?
Yeah, I mean they're really. I mean, I've yanked drives within while it was rebuilding. I've had it like failed one drive, and then like I actually had a legitimate drive. See, this was something that I was just simulating drive failures when I was testing it. I actually had an actual drive like start intermittently failing on the Drobo. And for one, it doesn't just automatically re-recognize the drive. Once it goes away, it assumes it's gone until you have removed it and put it back in. So I thought maybe, you know, the drive just hiccuped. I mean, it happens, you know, drive just gets hot or something. I was like dumping a bunch of files onto the Drobo. I was doing like a 4 terabyte backup to the thing or something insane like that. And one of the drives just flaked out and it was still spinning and just seemed like it errored or something. I was like, okay. So I unplugged it, plugged it back in. This is while the 4 terabyte copy is still going to the Drobo, by the way. It didn't interrupt. Nothing stopped. Right? And it's like halfway through the copy or whatever, and then the drive drops offline and it drops a little desktop notification up telling you, hey, you had a drive fill, blah, blah. And so I pull the drive out, I wait a few seconds, I plug it back in. It starts to rebuild in the background while the copy is still going, right? And the drive starts to time out again, and it just fails again. And while all that stuff was going on, I mean, my stuff was still copying to it. I mean, I could have been streaming movies off of it. I could have been doing whatever. It never even came close to timing out, right?
Oh, you're going to love that.
Yeah,
by the way, you know, one of the drives is dead. I don't really care, but just thought you might like to know one of your drives is dead.
And that's exactly what all you get is this little balloon pop-up that just shows up on the bottom, and it's a little red box or orange box and just says, hey, you know, you're in a degraded capacity or in a whatever. And even if the drive failed and that thing popped up and it told you that and you weren't home, it would do that rebuild stuff in the background. And it depends on how much stuff is on the Drobo, but it does it within, okay, so I have 8 3 terabyte drives in this Drobo here because I'm a crazy nutball like that. Here, hold on. Let's pull up.
He actually has all the porn.
What, all of it on the internet? No.
Pretty much.
Ironically, there is none on there, but it is full. I didn't reinstall Drobo dashboard. I just did a Windows reinstall, so I can't pull it up that easy. But yeah, it's I did single parity just because it's only a backup, really. So I didn't need double parity. I didn't need to eat up 2 drives worth of capacity. Because it really is a full copy of what's already on my system anyway. But yeah, that drive failed and it started chugging away, and it basically did a rebuild of, the Drobo was almost full, and it took it, I want to say it took it like 12 or 14 hours to finish. So yeah, it took it a while, but it takes 3 to 4 hours to fill a 3 terabyte hard drive front to back anyway.
Yeah.
Assuming you were going just full speed all out, right? And the Drobo had to repiece all that stuff together to fill that 3 terabyte drive back up out of the other 7 drives. And it was out of random access too, so you'd hear the hard drives thrashing away and stuff like that. Yeah. What else we got? No, Alan is the torrent. Yeah, it's funny. All the torrent are belong to my Drobo. So yes, I have an 8-bay Drobo Pro sitting here, and then I have the a Drobo S. Which one was it? Version 2, the newer one. The 5-bay USB 3 Drobo. Sitting here as well. And that one has
the Thunderbolt Drobo.
Are they making one?
Not yet that I know of.
I haven't heard.
I'm sure they will.
Oh. Do you defrag a Drobo? No. Absolutely not. The Drobo file system works similar to how an SSD stores its data. So you write a file to an SSD, it didn't necessarily, if your OS thinks it wrote the file to the beginning of the SSD itself could have stuck it anywhere. Same with the Drobo, same exact kind of concept. An SSD has a controller that distributes the stuff over 8 flash chips, and the Drobo Pro takes the data and distributes it over 8 hard drives. Could be anywhere on the hard drives. Which is actually kind of cool. It does thin provisioning in the background. Like, you can make as many 16 terabyte partitions as you want up till, the Drobo Pro can handle, I think, 16 or 255 or something crazy like that. So you can make a bunch of those partitions. The partition limit for one partition is 16 terabytes, unfortunately, but that's just a hard limit with the way the Drobo was made. So for example, with mine, I made 2 16 terabyte partitions to cover all the space, available from all those 3 terabyte drives that are in there. But those partitions stay where they're at. They still, it looks like I have 32 terabytes worth of space between those 2 partitions. However, that's not what's physically installed in Drobo, because it keeps track of what actually gets written. So if you haven't actually written something to some of the spots of that partition, it doesn't bother allocating it to the drives. So you can actually have, shared partitions, like multiple partitions sharing the same pool of disks, which is actually the same exact thing that the storage spaces thing is doing on Windows 8.
Yeah. Without having
Windows
to worry
8,
about the extra piece of hardware.
Except Windows 8 doesn't have that 16 terabyte limit. So as a joke the other day, I think I bumped up the partition size to 8 exabytes or 2 exabytes or something. I right clicked and it said expand. And I was like, expand? And then foolish Windows 8 gave me a blank check on how big do I want my partition to be, right? So I was like, how how big does this go? And I just like 2000000, and I just like enter, and it was like done.
Yep.
What?
Where does
Good
the
luck
rest of it get
building.
saved? To the cloud.
Yeah, the cloud. Burke's backyard. All the bits go to Burke's backyard. What was the other RAID-like file
Bigger,
system I was
bigger,
talking
bigger,
about?
bigger, 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 bigger.
RAID-like file system. There was the Windows 8, the storage spaces thing. That's
Yeah.
Windows 8, and then there's the Drobo. Is the what's the name of that Drobo file system?
I thought it was just the Drobo FS or something, DFS.
I think it's something like. Well, careful, DFS is not
Oh, yeah, actually, good point.
FS. Um. Oh, ZFS, which I've talked about a
that's
lot
it.
back in the day. Yeah, ZFS is actually really, really cool, but it's proprietary to Solaris, and it's not very user-friendly, and so it's like a really awesome idea on paper, but actually trying to get it into your house, good luck. Like, as much of a storage nutball as I am, I have not ever bothered. Like, I was just like, no, sorry. I give up. I just want a place to put my stuff. I don't want to sit there at a command line and spend 3 hours configuring it. Oh, yeah, and then there's Unraid, which was the those other guys that make the RAID boxes. Dang it.
Still
One of
haven't
those
played
guys.
with that.
What, on the Unraid?
Yeah.
Aaron's saying you can yank a drive out of an Unraid system and stick it in an external enclosure and get all the files off of it? Wow. Okay, that requires more research. Tom Logan over at Overclock 3D just got 16 80 gig SSDs from Corsair. 16 60 gig. And you will try to do a RAID 0 on a 16 port RAID card. $5 says he bottlenecks the RAID card in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
He's just going to bottleneck the RAID card. It's that simple. He's actually probably going to bottleneck the RAID chip, whatever RAID solution is on that card, because it's probably not going to be able to handle crazy high.
Eureka's good. They're not that good.
Actually, no. The good guys for rating SSDs is, believe it or not, the newer LSI stuff and the stuff that does not have a RAID chip on it, just the LSI HBAs, because they can handle. I just got one, a SAS LSI. I forget, it was like a 9502 or one of those. Similar controller to what's on the Intel 910 series, but just the regular version of the controller, with like the cables coming off the end of it. And those things can handle up to like 500,000 IOs per second, which is the same kind of IOs per second we got out of the OCZ, the Revo, the R4.
Yeah, the Revo drive. Yeah.
Yeah, the crazy, VCA2, all this other bells and whistles and everything. Yeah, so if that new LSI controller, it's not RAID again. It can't do the RAID on its end. You have to do the RAID in software. But yeah, it can handle like basically as many IOs per second as you can throw at it.
Yes, my SSD has a fan on it. Do you have a problem with that?
Oh, hey, we just got MSRPs for that. This thing. Remember this thing?
That from last week.
Those can't be right.
That cheap?
That can't be right. Hold on. I'm not even going to say that on the stream yet. I'm guessing there's something is lost in translation there, or conversion, or something.
The price is still in yen?
There's no way.
What?
There's no way a USB 3 drive
What?
is that small. There's no way. I'm sorry.
Somebody missed a decimal place on that.
8 gig, tiny thing, USB 3 with good speed for $13? No, that's not. Yeah, I need to email them back and ask them. And the reason I just got this email this late at night is because it's literally, um, I mean, it's from, it's from overseas. Funky characters in the email and everything. Anyway, yeah, there's no way it's that cheap. My goodness. What else we got? Burke, you falling asleep over there yet? Burke's probably thinking about starting his
He
own.
probably left. Oh no.
He's already going other. He's like walking out of the building.
Why won't they stop?
Seriously, Burke, you can like call this whenever.
It's all
We're
good.
just sort of.
Keep going if you want.
What are you doing over there, man? Suggestion for a cheap HTPC. Well, the thing I'm looking at's not cheap, so that's out.
No, unfortunately.
I personally, at the moment, use a jailbroken Apple TV 2 with Xbox Media Center on it. Just because it's painfully simple and the kids can use it. It's easy enough that the kids can use it with the regular remote. There's like no trick to it. It's painless. I have like my huge Drobo gigahugic thing mapped out as a share, and I can just, the kids can access everything on there and just like play movies to their heart's content. For like from now until the end of time, basically, probably without repeating anything. Because I have downloaded the internet.
Good Lord.
What?
Thinks that our M91P is pretty good, but $800 for the base model does not count as cheap.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. If you're going to spend that much
You're
money,
paying for the case. A lot of the times you're paying for the case because a nice HTPC case is going to cost you $300 easy. You're going to have to buy a short PSU for it. You're going to have to buy half-height cards. If you want a really nice HTPC, it does not come cheap. Unless you want to go the Atom route, in which case you're going to be disappointed, but hey, it's cheap.
Yeah, it is cheap, but it's underperforming and just sort of starving for performance-wise. Yeah, I mean, and Atom even has a hard time running Hulu. I mean, it'll run it, but it's not happy. Trying to scroll through like the available videos and stuff on Hulu desktop or whatnot, and it crawls. It's really slow. Honestly, I would just get like a 2600K and Sandy Bridge board and stick it in a box and hide it behind the entertainment center and get one of those. What's the Motorola remote? That remote with the 4 color buttons on it, and you flip it over and it's a keyboard.
Oh, I haven't seen that in a while.
Guy. Basically, it just came out. Like it was sort of vaporware-ish, but then it's actually shipping now. It's like a $50 or $60 remote. That's I think it's Bluetooth, comes with the dongle. You stick the dongle in whatever the PC is, and then you can actually some of the buttons are mapped to Xbox Media Center stuff directly. So you can use that on the home theater PC. It has like a mouse functionality and a full keyboard. When you flip it has like a gyro in the remote. So when you flip it over, it knows. Something like that. I haven't got one myself, but I've considered it. Drobo S is $100 more than Drobo FS. Yeah, okay, so Ryan really does not like Drobo FS.
I wonder why.
Ryan has one.
He kills it.
I don't know what he did. I don't even know that it's his fault, actually. Because I think that the controller inside the Drobo FS is underpowered. So if it's
I don't know, Alan. The first time the RAID failed, it might not have been his fault. Second time his RAID failed.
that wasn't the Drobo.
8th time is no, but it's continued on for years now. You let Ryan near a RAID, it will die. It will die a horrible death. Even a Drobo.
I don't know. He didn't kill the Drobo, but he is getting very slow data transfers to and from it. It's very slow for him for some reason. It's a dang USB 2 Drobo with the Drobo share built in. I don't think it's really that cheesy, Ken. I thought there was more to it than that. I don't know. But wait a minute. No, Ken, that's not possible because I was getting faster on USB 2 speeds to it. I don't know why Ryan was getting that slow. I mean, because I had it here before I sent it over to Ryan, and I was getting faster than 30, for sure. I was getting
Well, I
like
think they
50
were
to
seeing
60.
USB 2 speeds on a good day. Usually it was slower.
Yeah, yeah. It's just crawling for them for some reason. I don't know. In my defense, I hooked it straight up to gigabit. Like I didn't go through a switch. I went straight to the second gigabit port on my system. Um, so I knew for a fact I was using jumbo frames and they were making it, that sort of thing. Nothing was getting lost along the way. Um, I don't know. I didn't know. But I will say that, you're trying to do a Samba share with a ARM-based. I'm pretty sure the CPUs in the Drobo are ARM-based. Um, you're trying to tack Samba overhead on top of the Drobo, trying to do all of its Drobo magic stuff. It's going to slow it down. It's just too much for an ARM to handle. I wouldn't wish that on any ARM. Oh yeah, jumbo frames is where the transmission unit is bigger. So like a regular frame is like 2K. Jumbo frame is like a 9K frame. So there's less overhead for all the other stuff that has to get crammed into a packet of data that goes over TCP/IP. Any change on the hybrid SSD hard drive? Which hybrid SSD hard drive is he talking about?
Oh, he's probably just asking in general. And in general, yeah, it's not quite the best of both worlds. Not quite the worst of both worlds, but unless you like
They
copying the same
exist.
file back and forth a lot.
Hybrid. One of the guys at work got that Momentous, that new Seagate Momentous hybrid, the 750 gig with like 8 gig of SLC on it. Um, and he's using it. I mean, he did his install on it. He's using it for his home PC, and he's just a average kind of guy. Does browsing, does regular PC kind of stuff, and yeah, it flies for him. Um, the part where starts to fall on its sword is if you're doing, don't expect to get one of those and do power user kind of stuff on it and expect it to keep that speed all the time. Because the more stuff you do that looks like OS-ish kind of stuff to it, if you do more than 8 gigabytes worth of that, then it's just going to start falling off the cache.
And
Um,
your average Windows install is sitting at about that level.
yeah, it's about that level. And if if you're doing stuff like if you like to have a virtual machine, that almost counts you out right there.
Mm.
Because if you put the virtual machine on that, it's going to sort of fool the cache when you boot up the VM. It's going to fool it into thinking that that's the operating system. So it's going to try to cache that. So then your VM will go really fast until you reboot. Then you're rebooting as if it was uncached, right? Because you pushed all the other stuff out of the cache with the VM stuff. And then your boot is going to flush the VM stuff out of the cache, and then now your VM is going to crawl until it's been running for a while. So, yeah. Won't be happy until SSDs are around 5 or 10 cents a gig. Neither will I. But I will definitely use them until then. Since my first SSD cost $650 for an 80 gig. Actually, wait, that's not really my first SSD. Hold on.
He's digging out some solid state, guys. Who knows from how far back? Apparently really far back. Currently he's digging through more SSDs than most people will see in their lifetime, and that's just his discard pile.
Huh? Sorry. Yeah. So people think that this was my first SSD because that's the one I wrote that article on and pissed off Intel and all that other crap, which is just an 80 gig X25M, which has had like, I think 40 terabytes written to it, and it still works just fine, by the way. So this is actually my first SSD. And guess what? there's currently no flash memory in here at all.
What'd you do with it?
Uh, I sold it. That sounds not possible, right?
Oh, I'm not questioning it's possible. I'm just finding
Hold
it
on.
amusing.
Hold on. I have busted out the Swiss Army knife, and I am unscrewing the screws.
There is a sucker born every minute, so yeah.
Where's my little? Yeah,
I-
get your flash. Get your
I
flash
got your
memory without
nice
the
fresh
SSD
SSD
here.
guts right here.
Web is 6396, I think. Just sort of figured it out.
Yeah.
Hold on. Open Sesame. Oh, it's got like some tape. Okay. So, here's the board. Oh, look. SDHC card slots. Oh, look. 3 more. So you could take 6 SDHC cards, plug it into this guy, fire it up. You have a RAID of 6 SDHCs.
Your maximum size on that?
I think they were like 16 gig, which you couldn't even get at the time. But yeah, that's you know, it just fits in there, and you just put the lid back on, and that's it.
My
There's your
camera
SSD.
is an SSD.
And since I'm a crazy storage nutball, I actually had 2 of these. So all that joking we did about Colleen's Death Wish raid, I actually had, 2 of these, each one of these being a 6-drive RAID 0, and then I RAID 0'd them. And it went pretty fast for the day. Actually, it went really fast for the day. That was before 3 gigabit SATA came out.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it'd have to be.
Yeah. But I was getting 3 gigabit SATA speeds, baby. I had 2 of them. 12 SDHC cards. Yeah, that was kind of expensive. I think I bought like 12 8 gig SDHC cards or something. So the reason I sold them back off was because I then upgraded to the Intel drive, and the only reason I can afford that was because I sold 12 8 gig SDHC memory cards on eBay. What class was it? I think they were class 6. I don't know. You're talking years ago.
Sounds about right, yeah.
It's a friggin', if you Google the CR9000 photo fast thing.
Got to be 3 years, 4 years.
So, it was a while. It was before the X25M was out.
Yeah.
And actually around then I had 2, I don't remember if it was before, actually, wait, there was actually a drive in between that and that. And it was, allow me to unplug it from the storage testbed because it currently has the operating system of the testbed on it. Oh, wait, I should probably turn the testbed off first. Hold on.
No, it'll turn off by itself.
Well, you're right, but I had benchmarks running, so I'd rather not, like, fry them. Shut down, hurry up. Turn off. Oh, there it goes. Shutting down. Hurry up. Any day now. Come on. Move it. Damn it.
Problem with those old SSDs, they just take forever.
Yeah, I know. Okay, here we go. Samsung G-Skill Flash SSD. Like
From before they were cool.
like 2nd gen-ish Samsung, like the first gen that was actually decent Samsung. And this, believe it or not, was 32 gig of SLC flash in that guy, and I bought 2 of them for like a song. It was 64 gig total worth of SLC flash, and I think I bought it when the drives were new. I think I bought it for like, I think total was like less than $500. Jeez, think about that. Like, you have a hard time finding 64 gig of SLC flash right now for
Yeah, for that price.
$500.
Let alone, or hell, just find it.
Yeah. Drive wasn't that fast. It was only, SATA 1, I'm pretty sure. The interface might have been SATA 2, but it wasn't SATA 2 speeds.
But so reliable. It'll last
Well,
forever.
okay, so there's a reason I used this guy on the test bed. It is
Yeah.
always goes the same speed, right? It's SLC. It doesn't do a lot of the write combining, silly, any of that stuff.
No
So,
compression, none of the other tricks you got to worry
yeah,
about.
yeah, none of the compression. It's the tortoise and the hare thing, right? This is the hare, but no, this is the tortoise. Sorry, got them backwards. It's slow out of the gate, but it's always the same speed, right? Never slows down. So I know that any benchmarks that interact with the solid state drive at all for the host OS on my test bed, they're always going to do the same exact thing every single time with that drive. Transcend 32 gig, da 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 da. Yeah, when did I get that flash SSD? I don't remember. Bought them on Newegg, though. Why is my internet's going slow?
Because you
Alright, let's see.
confused your modem.
Newegg, G-Skill, flash SSD. No matches found for my search. Maybe I didn't buy them off of Newegg. What? This is impossible. Who knows? Can't find it. Bought them from somewhere. I like finding the old original orders of stuff that was insanely expensive. Like that PQI drive that I bought way back in the day. That was 1 gig for like, what, 180 bucks or 200 and something bucks. PQI iStick. Oh, okay, so here's one I bought. Whoa, this is interesting for you. August of 2005, I bought one, and it was $53.
53.
Okay. Seems kind of cheap.
Yeah.
Well, it's expensive for 1 gig, but okay. So then if I go back a little further, I bought another one in March of 2005 for $67. Just go back a little further there. All right, now let's go back a little further again. Oh no, still the same thing, $67. I know I had another order that was like more expensive or something. It was like insane. It was when they first came out. Like they just hit the market and I was like, have to have one. All that fire can't be good for ambient PC temperatures. You're just roasting the drive over the fire there. Just gonna warm it up a little, get a little hotter. There we go. Yeah, Burke's probably actually torching the studio in the background. He's got his Beavis t-shirt on. He's saying breaking the law. All right, Burke, what are you doing over there, dude?
Yeah. I don't know, but I think I'm going to run away.
Yeah, I actually need to run away.
Yeah.
It's like 11:30 here. You people
At 9:30 here.
Yeah, you're on the Canadian packet time.
West Coast, man.
That's no fair. You're closer to California than I am.
Possibly.
I'm in the middle.
Yeah.
I'm the middle one.
Well, except that Ryan's now hanging out around where you are too occasionally.
He's like an hour northwest
Yeah,
from me, and he's in
sometimes.
he's in the same city as Schwood now. I kept meaning to like. I was trying to set something up where when those guys used to lead us, remember, and they would always run over.
Oh yeah.
NSFW would run over and we'd be like sitting here like waiting, like, oh, come on, guys, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. I was tempted to like jump in the car one day and like, I bet I can get over there to Austin. Be like banging on Schwood's door. Hey, man.
I like it.
But I was tempted to crash his show one time when they were coming on before us. So I was going to like do those things with like the old, sitcoms where you get the stars from one show would like cross over to the other show, right? Make surprise guest appearances and stuff. So I was gonna like do a surprise guest appearance on NSFW, and then Schwood was gonna hang out and like surprise guest appearance on PC Fur afterwards. Would have been pretty cool.
It would have been a different show.
But then they changed their time slot, so it won't line up anymore. But if it ever does again, then Schwood and I sort of have a handshake deal going where we're gonna do that. Bike surprise.
All right. Good night, folks. This has been the podcast and then the fireside chat.
Yeah,
As we slowly watch an old NVIDIA
that's what the
card
fire's
run.
for.